Too nice is not a personality trait. It's what many women use to manage discomfort, uncomfortable situations. Basically, it's you could say it's a survival strategy that I believe has outlived its usefulness. And if you've been calling or referring to it as a part of your character for years, if you've ever said to yourself, or to others, I just can't help it, that's who I am, stay with me, okay? Because what I'm about to tell you changes everything about how you understand yourself. At some point, often early, before you could verbalize it articulately or you had the language for it, you learned something. I learned something. We learned something collectively. What we learned was when you position yourself as always being available, being helpful, having the solution, so that people think you're agreeable, you're good time to be around because you don't push back and you typically go along to get along. And that became your modus operandi, you know, you learn that. You learn when you did that, when you did all those different things, what it got you, what it earned you, or the reward, the outcome of those behaviors was that you felt approved, you felt peace, you felt safe, you felt that you were a good person, you were a nice person. And so this is hardly ever a conscious decision, right? It's what happens when that behavior is learned early and the behavior gives you the outcome of safety, approval. So it unconsciously becomes the way that you are navigating or living life as an adult. And if you're thinking, I don't do that, you might be doing it and not recognize it because it is an internal thing that has become the way that you are unconsciously positioning yourself. It's actually your nervous system which has observed years and years and years of this pattern behavior. And when this happens, you do the things you do, you get the reward of safety, of approval, of whatever it is. And, what the nervous system basically just tells itself this story, this narrative of when I give people what they need, right, things go better for me. There's less conflict, or there's no conflict for many of us who are conflict avoidant, because we, again, part of the conditioning is that somewhere along the line, when you hear conflict, people think that, many of us think that it's a negative thing. It doesn't always have to be. In fact, conflict in and of itself is not. It's what comes about as a result of it, that would either yield to positive or negative. It's really just addressing things that are coming up. But that's, I don't want to digress. So the nervous is this behavior pattern of being agreeable, being malleable, adjusting to the environment, people pleasing in essence, right? Earns you, or not earns you. I would say maybe earns you or gives you the outcome of safety, gives you the outcome of peace, gives you the outcome of being of the appearance of being agreeable. And so as it continues to happen, nervous system makes it an unconscious thing that you keep doing and you keep doing, right? So because you've trained it, and it's gonna, when you train something, you're training it for a particular purpose, right? So the outcome is going to be it's going to learn, and it's going to act accordingly. And I just want to mention, because it's important for me to say at this point, that it's not a flaw in you. It is definitely not a flaw in you. I don't want to add one more thing, right? I'm not shaming or anything like that. It's really a conditioning. Now, that's the highlight that I want to make. It's a conditioning, and what conditions do is they continue to run, they continue to happen until you disrupt or you interrupt them, right? And so, what this could look like for you is a continuous availability to, maybe let's use a workplace scenario, right? Always saying yes to projects that are asked of you, even outside of your normal regular scope of work, because you don't want, and so you'll justify it by saying I don't want to be. And for many high achieving women, especially black women, we have the unfortunate pressure, we've internalized the unfortunate pressure of always feeling the need to go above and beyond so that we can be seen as capable and seen as being worthy of the positions that we're in, if you're a high achiever. So this scenario looks like at work when you're given an extra project or additional work and you agree to do it. When last minute things come your way, and because again, the burden is to always be seen as capable, competent, and really justify that position that you have, you continue to say yes, right? Because God forbid that you can't do it. You maybe, that raise, that promotion. And it's true, a lot of it is true, even though some of the responses are internalized, the triggers are really true. For the most part, there is that burden as a black person in a high achieving position, or as a high achieving black person, or in a position of leadership where maybe you're the only black person or one of few. There's a lot of pressure to, because I don't need to go into it too much, but anyway. So what it looks like is you're asked to do something, given some additional projects, and you say yes, even though everything in you knows that you should not do it. And it's not a reflection of your competence, or a reflection of you not being capable of the position that you have. Or another example is somebody calls and you really are just not in the mood, but what do? You answer the call, right? You pick up the phone and you engage in a conversation that internally you did not want to. Or even let's talk about the conversation, right? So it's one thing that to say that you responded or you answered the call when you didn't want to, but then you continue in a conversation that is actually against your values, your morals, or not even something that aligns with you at the time. But you stay because you don't want to leave, you don't want to get off the phone, you don't want to disconnect because of those reasons, right? And similarly, having an opinion and not voicing it, hearing something that is against what you believe in, but not respectfully even sharing that, hey, this is not what I believe in, I don't like this, or whatever. You stay mute, you don't say anything, you hold it down. Or this one is a popular one too, not popular, commonly practiced one, where you're asked, how are you? And immediately, I'm okay. And while you don't necessarily have to share every single thing that is happening to you, I've realized that, because this is one that I also used to do too. For me, it wasn't so much because I didn't feel that my response was valued or that I didn't want to share. I just thought that you people don't really want to hear. So I felt like if I genuinely shared what was happening, even without going into details, it would go nowhere. But what I've come to realize, even if the asker is just asking to be polite, that's on them. Like if you ask me, I'm gonna be honest, right? So if you really didn't want to hear, if all you wanted to hear was a cursory, I'm okay, even when I'm not, then don't ask. So you know what I mean? So what I do now is, what I'm not, if there's more to the response, then I'm okay. If I'm genuinely in a space where okay doesn't fit, and I usually don't even say it, but I would say, I'm having a bit of a time, so I'm not going into details, but I'm definitely not just going to give you that equally polite cursory response, right? So next time, if or you wanted to hear okay, don't ask me, because if I'm not okay, you're not going to hear me say okay. But I digress. So that's what an example of that could be, right? you could be in the terrible mood, and again, we don't need you to have verbal diarrhea and share all that's going on. But if you're not okay, don't say you're okay. And there are ways to respond that are authentic, but don't necessarily burden the asker. So now, the great news that I have for you about this conditioning is that just as you learned it, you can unlearn it, right? It's not permanent, it's not encoded in your DNA. It's a learned response. And a learned response can be unlearned or unlearned, depending on what part of the country you're, world, not country. And the body can learn a new one. So when I say that, I'm not just being optimistic, right? It is true. It may take a while, it will likely take a while because learned behaviors are acquired over a period of time. And so to unlearn them, it's likely going to take as long, if not longer. Because I've seen that, especially as you get older and you're more used to being a certain way or doing things in a particular order, the reverse is tends to require more effort and more consciousness, more awareness, and more work in essence, because you're going against the grain at this point, right? But it can be unlearned. It can be unlearned. So this is not just me optimistically saying that. Be warned though that in the unlearning, the goal is not for you to become or to morph into a different person. Our collective goal is for you to practice a different way of responding, enough times, often enough, so that you get good and so that your nervous system starts running things in a different way, right? So you're not, because there's nothing wrong with you, there's no flaw, it's not changing, it's just redirecting a certain way of being, of operating, so that this time it's going in direction that supports you, right? From the yes to whatever it is, the automatic yes to whatever you want it to be. So your nervous system will start to run in a different direction, but it will run automatically now in the opposite direction. And this concept, this practice, is not even a concept, is what I like to call the pause, Pause. It's a practiced interruption that you can learn, that sets you up so that when you respond, you're responding out of integrity. And what I mean by that is you're responding, or your response reflects what you truly desire to respond with, or in the way that you desire to respond with, as opposed to that automatic yes that comes out because of the learned way of behaving, where when you acquiesce the needs of others, when you don't say no, when you agree to all these different things, you earn safety, right? So similar to a new reflex, you're going to build it over time with intention, and you're going to build it deliberately. All right. So as I wrap up, I want to leave you with some questions that you should reflect on. Even as I explained with the examples that I gave, the workplace scenario, answering the phone or responding to an email when you don't want to, engaging in conversations around things that are not, don't enhance you, or that bring no value to you and maybe even take from you. Because one thing I've realized now is, before I used to feel like if you could be neutral, or things could have a neutral impact, but I realize now that if it's not advancing you, it's actually taking you back. And that realization, that awareness has helped me to be very, very intentional about the things that I allow around me in my space. Because before, I would still dibble and dabble. I would say, well, I know that this isn't really taking me anywhere. This is about nothing, and maybe this is something that I really shouldn't be doing. But it's not that big a deal. right? It's not taking me away. Maybe it's not moving me forward, but it actually is. And once that became something that I brought to I became really conscious about, I immediately adjust once there's no advancement. And by advancement, I don't mean that it has to be making you money or giving you something tangible, but even just enhancing the way you think, right? Even just making you feel good or light or, those types of things, right? Those are also advancements. It's not always material, tangible advancements, but bringing a smile, warming you up, making you feel good, fuzzy, those things. If that is not happening, it's actually doing the opposite. There's no neutrality. It really isn't. In this case, in this instance. So the questions I would love for you to reflect on are: one, as I gave those examples, the example of agreeing to work projects, the example of always responding when there's a call, a text, email, even when you don't want to, participating in conversations that are against your values or that are not what you want to do, um, relationships that, again, the same type of thing. What was anything coming up? What were the things coming up for you, right? What were the things coming up for you? Were they similar things? Were they things along the same lines? Were they the exact things? What was coming up? And where in your life does this show up, or where in your life does this show up the most? In what areas is this still a big thing? Are you in relationships that are not um, fostering anything good? Are you in an environment, even at work, that is so negative and so toxic? I don't, don't want to use that word loosely, but there are some situations that are like that. Are you even practicing habits that are born out of trying to fill a void? Where is this pattern coming up? Where you're saying yes automatically without allowing yourself to really own how you want to respond or be in control of the things that you're agreeing to do. Sit in it, think about it, and if you feel bold enough to share, I would love to see it in the comments. Otherwise, just make a mental note and think about it. Where is this happening? I bet you it's happening in at least one area of your life. And as I wrap up, I want to share with you a free training that I had created for my clients. I took a portion of it that walks you through a body level mechanism, the, the mechanism behind all of this, right? Why your body is fired up and says yes when somebody asks you something or asks something of you. What that sequence actually looks like. It walks you through everything, even though in when it's happening, it seems like, hey, Jite, the example. Do you want to do it? Yes. There is a sequence to it. There is a sequence, and when you unpack it, or the video unpacks it and shows you what is happening from the point, the minute, the moment that you're asked to the point where your response comes out and what happens, right? And it essentially walks you through, tells you or shows you how to interrupt it. So it's called the What's Happening in Your Body Before the Yes, and the link is in the description. I would love for you. I recommend it's a game changer for you to watch it and just really, really take what it's saying and embody it. There's nothing else to be said. Just remember that if you keep being this person who's dishonoring yourself, because that's what you're doing when you say yes to something, someone, you're saying no to yourself. And that is a dishonor. You're not being in integrity with yourself. Integrity is not just doing what you say you're going to do, it's also living in a way that is aligned with who you are, or it's also doing what you said you're going to do for you, now not just for others. To be honest with you, self-integrity is actually the foundation for being in integrity with others. You know, to be an integrous person means that you are practicing integrity within yourself, and that's why you can extend it to others. So the link is in the description. Get it, watch it, embody it, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.